Welcome to tonight's Pixingo Huddle. I have a special guest with us tonight. His name is Birk. I've known Jeff for about 5 years, and the first time I heard Jeff present and speak, I knew that he was special, and here's a guy that knows what he's doing in front of an audience. And so let me just kind of give you a little background on Jeff. Jeff has inspired thousands for the last 25 years as a keynote speaker, trainer, stand-up comedian, corporate MC, and for likes of Delta Airlines, Liberty Mutual, 3M, Pepsi, Honda, Ralph Lauren, Foot Locker, Bose, a whole bunch of other companies, and now Pixingo, which I'm really, really happy about. He's opened for Jay Leno, Martin Short, and Kevin James, and he's also been featured on America's Funniest Home Videos. He has a rare combination of being able to be funny and also very much on point and sincere and be able to express his wisdom when it comes to leadership training. He combines all of that to help a lot of companies across the country understand a whole bunch of topics. But one of the topics we asked him to cover tonight was how do companies show appreciation to their customers and to their team members, which is so perfect for Pixingo because that is one of our core values of adding value to other people. And so we're just so excited to have Jeff on our huddle tonight. Jeff, thank you so much for making time and being with us on our Zoom meeting.
All right. Thanks, Brian. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay. I'm hoping everybody can hear me okay. I love doing these virtual meetings because it's pretty easy to talk for me in front of a camera. I was just a few months ago, before the whole COVID thing happened, I was in front of a group of about 300 people. And, I'm getting ready to go, and there's an older gentleman that comes in the back, sits in the very back of the whole place, and there's plenty of seats up front, right? I said, sir, why don't you come on up to the front? I think you'll have a better time up here. I think you'll be able to hear me a little bit better. And he said, Jeff, don't worry about it. I'll hear every word you got to say. I just bought a $5,000 hearing aid. No worries. Don't worry about it. I'm like, $5,000? You got to be kidding me. He says, yep, it's totally worth it. And I said, well, that's a lot of money to spend on a hearing aid. What kind is it? And he said, oh, it's 9 o'clock. So it's good to be in a virtual world. So I'll let that sink in just a little bit. Hey, what I wanted to do, thanks for having me on again. I appreciate you allowing me to have some time here. I want to start off with a story about this picture that you see, and it's a story about Henry David Thoreau. Some of you may know who Thoreau is. If you don't, he was a very deep thinker in American history. I'm going to take you back to about 1840. It's the 1840s when he was kind of hanging out in the upper, northeast area of the United States, particularly right outside of Boston. And one of his good friends was Ralph Waldo Emerson. And so he and Emerson are having a pretty good conversation. And Thoreau says, here's what I want to do. I want to borrow some of your land that you have on the shore of Walden Pond. And I want to go, I'm going to build a shack, and I'm going to live there for a couple of years. And I just want to think about things, and I want to write about things. And if you know Thoreau, you know that the book Walden came from this venture. And one of the things about Thoreau, he's a very deep thinker. He's a fan of the human condition. And regarding this little project, he said, I went to the woods because I wished to live life deliberately, to confront only the essential facts of life and see what they had to teach, and not when I came to die, discover I had not lived. Now, Brian, I don't know what you were thinking. This guy's a comedian and he's pulling out Thoreau for us here, taking you to some depth here, right? But with that framework, he goes in and he builds this shack and he lives there for a couple of years, and he's going in and out of town. He's not living there completely solitary, but he's taking notes, what he sees. And what he noticed is these third and fourth generation Americans that were working in the shops and in the mills and in the stores. And he noticed that they really didn't have a passion for what it was that they were doing. They had inherited these jobs from their grandparents and their great-grandparents, but they hadn't really made a connection. And so one of the observances that Thoreau made was this quote. He said, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. I want you to think about that for a moment, and think about your people that you work with, maybe the people you manage, maybe even your customer base. Are some of them living their lives quietly desperate? Because if they are, that begs the question, well, quietly desperate for what? Well, it's quietly desperate for more meaning and for more purpose in their life. And as you observe these qualities and characteristics and these people that seem to just kind of be caught in a rut, or there's nothing going right for them in their lives, there is something that we can do about it. And I'm going to show you some research that's going to help us with this. Because people in their hearts, they really do want an opportunity to bloom and to flourish and to show you exactly what they're all about, what they're capable of. And we have the opportunity to pour some water on that plant and make it bloom. So here's where we're going with this. Doug Conant said, to win the marketplace, you must first win the workplace. A lot of times we get caught up, but we got to take care of the customers and this and that and the other. And a lot of times we forget about the person that we manage, or the person that is sitting right next to us, or one of our team members. So if we're looking for ways to motivate both our customers and the people that we work with, research has shown that getting really good at appreciation and recognition is one of the top ways that we can add value to them, and hence add value also to our endeavors and our business and the other things that we're pursuing. So let me show you some statistics. These come from a company based here in Utah, OC Tanner. They're the worldwide leader of culture change and metrics and research, and particularly employee appreciation. Take a look at this. Is recognition happening, first of all, in the workplace? Look at this. Only 38% had a formal recognition moment when celebrating a significant service anniversary. In other words, you've been working with someone for 5 years, you've been managing that person, and whoops, I forgot that, that was your you've been here for 5 years? Yeah, that's horrible, 38%. Look to the right, only 57% of employees received a thank you from a leader or peer in the past 30 days. That's horrible, that's terrible. Look at the bottom left, 42% of employees were told how they could also improve when they received recognition. Boy, I really appreciate the job you did on that report, but next time, could you use a smaller font? I'm trying to save on paper, right? They're really good at combining praise and criticism, which is a no-no. Look at the bottom right. The percent of employees that received spontaneous praise for their work was 27%. Just a pat on the back, maybe just a thank you, nothing formal, not even a stand-up meeting, just, hey, wanted to let you know how much you mean to us and completing that project or that recent thing. So the stats are pretty bad. Let's talk about how we, starting with us individually, can change those things. I love this quote from Covey. He said, next to physical survival, the greatest need of a human being is psychological survival. To be understood, to be affirmed, to be validated, to be appreciated. People crave appreciation. Don't ever let someone tell you, you know what, I don't need appreciation. That's just touchy, fuzzy, feely HR stuff. No, I'm all about the numbers. Well, I'll tell you, the reason why people say that is two reasons, actually. Number one, they've never had a meaningful and purposeful recognition moment. Or number two, they've received some recognition that was done so poorly that they never want to go through that experience again. So I'm going to give you some tips later on some best practices to make sure that you are not the person that's doing the wrong thing when it comes to recognition. It can be very, very subtle. I think, first of all, we need to understand the definition of appreciation. If we were to go to the dictionary, we might see something like this. It's how we feel or should feel about our people, about our customers, about the person that we work with and that we see day in and day out. How do I feel, or how should I feel about that person? That's appreciation. And then as we drill down, if we were to go into Merriam-Webster's dictionary, they break it down by bullet points. First of all, they say it's a sensitive awareness or understanding. You got to have that in place first, right? Sometimes we get so caught up doing things and getting deadlines met and all sorts of things completed that we forget to just kind of step back. And am I really being sensitive and aware of what's going on around me with the people that I work with? Take a look at this picture. You look at that and you might see something completely different than I do. Now, when I look at it, it takes me back to when my daughter was 3 years old and she would come home from preschool all proud of the little finger painting that she had. And of course me, the proud daddy, I'd stick it up on the refrigerator and, hey, this is great. Look what my daughter did, right? Wonderful. But let's say a few weeks later, I'm on the road and I'm maybe delivering a keynote or a workshop to an organization on these principles, and I've got some free time to kill. And I go across the street and there's a museum. And this is what I see in one of the halls of the museum. And I'm sitting there looking at it and thinking, I got one of these on my fridge. And the curator, she comes over and she sits next to me, and I'm like, I don't get it. This painting, did you see the price in the lower right? What gives? And then she kind of starts to tell me a little bit about the young lady who painted this picture, about her upbringing, about the fact that she had to go to work 3 different part-time jobs in order to pay her way to get to art school. And that she worked her way through art school, and now she has paintings like these hanging all over the country. And now I'm leaning back and saying, aha, now I have a greater what? A greater appreciation. I'm a little bit more sensitive. I'm a little bit more aware of the background, because now I understand why that shape of the canvas, why those colors, why those shapes, because I was sensitive and aware and open to learning a little bit more. That has to happen first before we can do any kind of effective recognition. After that, then we get to the expression, the approval. We're gonna approve or show approval and gratitude and admiration for that person. And this is where the action takes place. And this is very important to understand. Recognition creates the feeling of appreciation. And when I'm in a live group, I always have fun asking this question. I'll say, hey, who can tell me what appreciation is? Raise your hand. And I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, the person raising their hand, after I've gone through all of this, up to this point, they will say, oh yeah, it's saying thank you. And that's the wrong answer. And then people are kind of, I know. And then they start to think a little bit more about it. And I say, what did I just talk about? Appreciation is what? It's a feeling. Appreciation is feeling grateful, feeling thankful. I think about my mom, dad, brothers, and sisters, the experiences that we all had growing up together, and I appreciate them, all of them, for providing me with those learning opportunities. So think of it this way. Appreciation is invisible. So if that's appreciation, I want to ask you now, what's recognition? And this is when the crowd really is thinking hard. And then a tepid little hand will go up and they'll say something like, it's saying thank you. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly right. Recognition is the conveyance of appreciation. It's what we do about our feeling, right? So back to my family example, birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, anniversaries. Those are the opportunities wherein we have a chance to show our appreciation. Now, let me ask you a question. Can you have appreciation and no recognition? Good question, right? And it's a tricky question. And the answer is yes. You can have the appreciation there, but never do anything about it. I meet managers all the time. Jeff, my people, they know that they know they're valued. They know that I value the work that they do. Oh yeah, really? That's cool. What have you done for them lately? Yeah, they just know. Okay? Perfect example of someone who has the appreciation, but they never do anything about it. But let's switch that around. Can you have recognition and no appreciation? Oh yeah, absolutely. You can have a recognition moment done so poorly that it destroys appreciation. Case in point, I worked with a girl years ago. She talked about her dad getting to work on his 20-year anniversary, and he's thinking the company might do something for him, right? It's 20 years, that's a pretty big milestone. So he's walking around doing his thing throughout the morning. Nothing seems to be out of the ordinary. He walks by his desk close to lunchtime, and he notices that there's a green metal lunchbox there. You know, the kind that construction workers carrying around. They got the big thermos in the lid, right? That was the one of 2 choices that he had for his 20 years with the company. It's either a lunchbox or an umbrella. Hey, now that's not even the worst part. He walks up to this. He knows that he ordered it. And he's looking at it. He turns it around, and slapped on the back of this thing is a yellow Post-it note, handwritten in pencil, thanks for 20 years. He gets to go home and tell his family that experience. And when my coworker heard that experience, she was upset, because she knew firsthand her entire life the blood and sweat and tears that her dad had put into that company, and that's what they did. Now, I could be the devil's advocate in behalf of that manager who was in charge of that recognition moment and say, hey, I did the recognition. I got the thing and I put it on his desk and I put it on. Yeah, that's the problem. You did the recognition. There was nothing in it. There was no heart. You could have had a little 10-minute moment, gathered his team around. You could have just done so much, but you blew the opportunity. All right. It's an art and a science. Many companies, many organizations, people, they just get so hooked up on the, mixed up with the science. Well, how much is this going to cost? Well, what kind of an ROI am I going to get if I start doing this stuff? Right? They get so concerned with that, they forget about the art of doing it. It's an art and a science. If you're going to do it, you got to be a little bit elegant. You got to be a little bit thoughtful. You have to be sensitive and aware before you can really have an impact. So remember that. That's one of the biggest things that people get when I'm talking with groups about this stuff. And they have me come in to try to elevate their teams to understanding a little bit more about, hey, how can I motivate my team better? Well, let's talk about appreciation first of all. That's one of the things that they've got to understand first before anything else works is let's start to be a little bit more aware and a little bit more sensitive. And I'm going to share with you some other best practices here in just a moment. Once we've got those first two in place, though, here's what happens. We start to get a rise in value with our people. It's kind of like, we get a rise in value with, you have a rise in the tide, for example. You have a rise in the value of your investments or real estate. It's the same thing here, except it's just like the tide. It lifts all boats, no matter how big or how small that boat is. No matter what people's titles are, it can lift everybody to new heights and new levels. I love this quote by Frederick Herzberg. Here's what he said: "The powerful motivator in our lives isn't money." Whoa, hold on a second. Jeff, you lost me. You're totally off on this one. Now let me back up here because I kind of felt the same way when I read this the first time. The powerful motivator. He didn't say that money is not a motivator. It's a motivator, but it's not the powerful motivator. He said it's the opportunity to learn, to grow in responsibilities, to contribute to a team or others, and then look at the last one, and to be recognized for achievements. Again, like I said earlier, people crave recognition, but we have to do it right. Another little tip here, don't recognize everybody the same way. Some people hate public recognition. You got to be aware of that. Some people love the spotlight, right? Some people are vegan. They're not going to want a certificate to Omaha Steaks, all right? These are little things that you've got to be aware of. Make it personal, okay? I could tell you lots of more stories on those ones, but we're limited with our time. So let's get into some of the solutions here, all right? I love Larry Bossidy's quote: "Execution is the missing link between aspiration and result." So let's talk about how we can execute some recognition habits and practices that are going to knock people off their socks. There's 3 areas I want you to focus on. I'm going to share with you a story about this gentleman in the front of the line. Some of you may know him. I ask my classes all the time this, and the further and further we get into the future, the less and less they remember this gentleman, Roger Bannister. And I say, what's he famous for? And that's just silence, and it just blows me away. Roger Bannister, the first person in the world, at least in recorded history, to break the 4-minute mile. So I'm going to take you to the Helsinki Olympics, 1952. Bannister is clearly the favorite, and he is picked to win the gold medal as well as break the mile, this 4-minute mile. But his event is on a Sunday, and he has 2 races on the same day. He's got his qualifying heat in the morning, and then he's got the gold medal race in the afternoon. So you can imagine what happens. He expends too much energy in the first race to qualify, and then in the second race, not only does he not get a medal, he doesn't even come close to breaking the 4-minute mile mark. And you would think, okay, he's going to go off and just never do it again. And that's exactly what his plan was. I gave it a good shot. I'm going to now focus my efforts and all of my concentration on my medical studies, which is what he was really passionate about. But his friends, his mentors, his coaches came to him and said, "Roger, you got a bad deal here. You are still the guy. Stay in. You applied incredible effort, and even though you still lost, we're going to come and support you." So that's the first thing that we have to do with our people. We need to acknowledge the effort that they are applying, even before a project is done, and even when sometimes they fall short, just like Roger Bannister did. Here's what this does. Applying effort helps them to feel, you know what, I'm feeling a sense of well-being here. And I'm not talking about well-being in the sense that, hey, we've got a little gym down in the basement, or we've got a free gym membership. I'm talking about my manager really cares about my well-being. We also get more confidence, and we convey more confidence to our people when we encourage them and notice the effort that they're applying. And then lastly, they feel like they're in good standing. We're more transparent. There's no more self-talk. Well, why did my manager say that, right? So it starts with applying effort. Notice the effort and call it out. Second is about achieving results. Now, fast forward 2 years, and we've got Bannister, 1954, on May the 6th, breaks the record. This is on the campus of Oxford University in England. And he collapses, and everybody runs, and they know he's really close, right? You can even watch this clip on YouTube if you want to later. And everybody knew that he had broken the record when the timekeeper said, Roger Bannister's time, 3, and then they didn't hear anything else. So now you can imagine all of the stuff that's going to go on. We are going to acknowledge him for achieving the result that we hoped for and that he hoped for. He's going and getting his picture on Wheaties boxes. He's holding court with the Queen of England, traveling around, appearing on shows, on radio, all over the place. So that's step number 2. When our people, or when even our customers, do something great, we're going to go ahead and make sure and call it out. What this does, especially for our coworkers and the people we manage, that shows them that innovation is great. All right, we're okay with that. Go ahead and make sure and innovate and do things outside of what you normally think about. Also, the customer experience is enhanced tremendously when we make sure and acknowledge the person who's achieving these results. And then they start to see themselves as a difference maker. No, I'm not a box checker anymore. I'm not an assignment doer anymore. I am a difference maker in my team and with my coworkers. Okay? Finally, number 3, celebrating careers. This is Roger Bannister on the far right, later in his life, being knighted by the Queen of England. Not so much for what he did on the track, but more so what he did in the field of medicine. And this is very, very important. And I said this a little bit earlier. We got to make sure that when our people are hitting these milestones, that we celebrate them. This does a number of great things. They feel valued. They feel like they fit. The relationships are enhanced and improved and made much better. And also they feel a sense of belonging. You know what? I'm so glad I didn't walk across the street or go down the street to my competitor and look for work there or take that other job that was even closer. But I'm happy to drive an extra 10 miles and even maybe take a little less money because I'm treated so well here by my organization and by my leader. Okay, now let me share with you some best practices. These are very, very important. I'm going to give you 4 of them. First of all, you got to be frequent. How frequent? Well, Gallup says about every week we should be doing recognition. Now I'm going to bend that rule a little bit because whether we work with 1 person or whether we work with 50, it could get to be a little bit problem and sometimes it gets to be a little disingenuous. Here's what I recommend. Every week, try to do these 3 things. I want you to give, receive, or observe a recognition moment. Give, receive, or observe a recognition moment every week. And I'm telling you, things will, you'll be amazed at what can happen and the stories that you'll be able to tell and the tears that some people will shed when they say, you know, I've been here for 15 years and this is the first time anybody has recognized me for anything that I've done. All right, so that's number 1, be frequent. Frequency lends itself to best practice. Number 2, be timely, okay? Don't think that, hey, it's Friday and I really should recognize Sue for what she did. I'll take care of it on Monday because you'll forget about it. I promise you, you'll forget about it. We want to make sure and strike while the iron is hot. Recognize as close and as proximate to the event as possible. So be timely. Number 3, make sure to be inclusive. What I mean by that is include everybody. You know, we've got some star performers, we have some mid-level performers, and even some low performers. I'm going to challenge you here to find something good about each one of those people, because here's what happens a lot of times. It's always the 9s and 10s on a scale of 10 that are getting the recognition, okay? But a lot of times we're comparing apples to oranges because maybe those mid-level people don't have as much experience, maybe they don't have as much education, but a little bit of recognition can boost that person who's a 7, maybe to an 8 or a 9 or even a 10 level. So make sure to include everybody. Don't have them just be eligible, but have them feel included. And then lastly, make sure that your recognition is performance-based. Don't be general, all right? You know, hey, I gathered everybody together. I just wanted to do some recognition for Brian. He's a great guy and does great things, and we just wanted to let you know, Brian, you're great, and your gratitude greatly gratifies our great organization. It's so general, right? We need to make sure that what the person is doing or has done is based on their performance. And then the others observing the recognition moment or hearing about it, then they know exactly what they need to do in order to get a little bit of recognition themselves, okay? Now, whoa, look at this slide. Woo, barriers all over the place. You're going to have some people that are going to push back. I'll tell you right now. This recognition stuff doesn't work. All right. And even worse, they're going to give you excuses. Okay. And I always ask my live audiences, what do you think the number one excuse is? It's right there, right? I don't have time for this. You should look at my calendar, blah, blah, blah. My attitude is, look, give me a break, will you? You're going to tell me that you've got 4 hours every night to go home and binge watch Netflix, and you can't take 10 minutes a week to recognize your people? So let's take this excuse off the table right now. Here's what we're going to do. When you hear anybody giving you this line, I want you to make sure and tell them, look, it's not about having time, it's about making time. And the easiest way to make time for recognition is to schedule yourself a recurring appointment on your online calendar. Here's what I'm challenging you to do tonight, or whenever you see this. Find a 10-minute chunk of time somewhere in your week where you can make a recurring recognition appointment with yourself, whether that's Monday morning or Thursday afternoon, whenever you think you're not going to be on the phone or in a meeting or whatever. Here's what's going to happen. That appointment's going to pop up. Again, it's just once a week. It's going to pop up on your phone or on your computer if you're sitting in front of your computer. And I want you to stop what you're doing. I want you to kick back and think about the people you work with. Maybe think about the customers that have come in that day. And somebody's going to pop into your mind. They either did something great that has helped you in some way or another, or they continually do something great that you value and that you appreciate. And that'll happen in about 30 seconds. Now you got 9.5 minutes to write that person a thank you card. I'm a big fan of the physical thank you card. If you can't do that, send them a note at least, or send them a text, okay? Use their name, be specific. And if you're in an organization that has core values, tie one of your core values into it. I'm telling you, it'll make a huge difference. Don't let anybody feed you that line of "I don't got time," all right? That was horrible English, by the way. I don't got time. This is for you New Yorkers out there. Now I know what he's understanding. He's speaking this Midwest stuff the whole time. Should I do it that way the rest of the time, Brian? Okay. All right, let me give you another one here. Here's another one, an excuse. I'm afraid of jealousy. If I recognize one person on my team, then I'm playing favorites. All right, what do I do there? Well, here's what you're going to do. You're going to be consistent, all right? You're going to make sure and do it every week, whether it's someone celebrating a birthday, maybe someone is celebrating a new baby in their home. It might be someone who has just completed a 6-month safety metric as part of your organization. It might be somebody celebrating an anniversary with you. Maybe it's someone that has done something to complete a project. There are so many things out there. Don't let the opportunity go to waste. Because as your people see you being more consistent with this stuff, they will have their turn in the spotlight. And they will know that, no, this is just what Bill does. He does this every week, and it's a lot of fun. And we rally around together, and there are no longer people in the back of the room rolling their eyes. Yeah, John always gets recognized. What about me? No, you got to be consistent. Be consistent with this. Here's one more for you. I don't know how much of my budget to allocate for recognition. Who says you need money? Some of the best recognition moments I've ever had in my life have not involved a token or a dollar bill so much as a bonus or anything like that. So get creative, all right? There are plenty of creative ways to make sure that people feel and know that you care about them. You don't have to go out and buy something, all right? There's plenty of websites out there that you can just Google as far as cost-free recognition ideas, okay? And there's plenty of lists out there that you can look up, okay? Take a look at these statistics, and I've got one last story for you. If you start to get good at this, check this out. These, again, are stats from OC Tanner, my good friends here in Salt Lake City. 74% rise in people feeling like, you know what? I'm feeling like I'm part of special projects. I want to do more. I want to do more than what I'm currently doing. Can you involve me in something else that can help directly with what you want me to do? So that's a great one. 116% increase if you just say thank you, all right, in feeling appreciated, right? That's a pretty big increase. Look at this, 172% when you do spontaneous praise, okay? That's just a fantastic rise in people feeling appreciated. And then look at this, 355% when you do a formal recognition moment that is planned out, where you gather the team, you have a couple of team members say some really cool things about the recipient, and you give that person, let's say, a 1-year anniversary award, or maybe a 90-day onboarding certificate, all the way up to a 30-year retirement award, and everything in between. These are huge, huge numbers. So As you think about these things, I'm going to share with you one last story. My Canadian friends, you'll know who this is, and everyone else probably doesn't. This is a young man named Alex Bilodeau. Let me tell you about Alex Bilodeau. Back in 2006, he was considered to be one of the top downhill mogul skiers in the world, so much so that he gets to the Torino, Italy Olympics in 2006. And he finishes 14th. And he's devastated. And his brother, Frederick, who's his number one fan, goes to all the events with him. He says, hey, you're going to be fine. You just competed in the Olympics, for crying out loud. He's just a tremendous support to him. So 4 years later, Alex has doubled his efforts. And in 2010, he's in his home state, or in his home country in Vancouver, British Columbia. And he does what no other Canadian had done in that sport. He gets the gold medal. And the country just went wild. But it was nothing close to what he was about to do 4 years after that. This is a picture in Sochi, Russia at the 2014 Olympics. He did what no other human being had ever done. He gets back-to-back gold medals in his event. And as amazing as that was for that event, it's not as amazing or memorable as to what happened when he knew that he won. He's the last skier coming down, and everyone is cheering and yelling. And Frederick is right there. Everyone's behind that orange mesh, right, that plastic barrier. And Alex comes screaming across the finish line, and he sprays everybody with that snow, and he takes his goggles off, and he's there with them, and they're all looking up to see the scores. And Alex's score comes in. He knows that he's won. Everybody is going crazy. And instead of Alex doing one of these, up to his sponsor or whatever, the first thing he does, he takes his skis off, puts his goggles up, and he runs over to his brother. He grabs Frederick, pulls him over that mesh barrier so that they can celebrate together. I'm going to show you a picture of that moment. And that day, people learned some interesting things about these two brothers. They learned how close they were. They also noticed that Frederick has some challenges. He's suffered with cerebral palsy his whole life, and yet here he is standing next to his brother at every event as his number one fan. And so the reporters are coming up and microphones asking Alex, what about that one turn? Were you nervous? Hey, did you think about this while you were skiing down? And then finally someone asks, who's this young man standing next to you? And Alex says, this is my brother Frederick, my number one fan. He comes to every single event, and I would never think of skiing without him. And you can see that he's got some physical limitations that he's dealt with his entire life. So out of respect for my brother in fulfilling his dreams, we fulfill our dreams together. And when I win, we celebrate together. So as you think about what you can do in appreciation and recognition and celebrating with your people and with your customers, I want you to think about this quote from Robert Frost. He said, 2 roads diverged in the wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Recognition and appreciation, unfortunately, is the road less traveled by most corporations and organizations and teams and individuals. But if you decide to take that road, you will see amazing things happen with your customers, with your teams, and also with yourself. So that's my message, Brian. I think I went a couple minutes over. I hope you'll forgive me, but thanks again for letting me share this information with you.
Oh my gosh, that was so fantastic. Wow, my goosebumps are still at high alert. It's high alert goosebump time right now because that was such a powerful story. Woo! Thank you so much, Jeff.
You're welcome.
You guys, this guy is fantastic. Obviously, you know that. And Jeff, I have already noticed that there are some people on the Zoom that I think should meet you. Is there any way that you could give any kind of information that you're comfortable with where people get, hey, thank you. Whoa, this is perfect.
I apologize. I apologize for the shameless plug, but Brian said, hey, if you've got a website or whatever, if anyone wants to get in touch with me, you can go to TRAINLIKEAROCKSTAR.rocks. That's my personal site. It mostly talks about my personal coaching and mentoring for public speaking. I've done a lot of stand-up comedy in my years, and I've taken all that experience and brought it to help people with any sort of training or public speaking skill that they want to enhance. But if you come to this site and come over here and just click on Contact Jeff, you can go ahead and fill that out, yeah, there it is. Or you can just go to jeff.t as in Tom .Birk, B-I-R-K @gmail.com and drop me a note. That's perfectly fine.
Wow. Awesome. Okay. Well, I took so many notes, so many great nuggets, stuff that I have been overlooking in my life. I mean, this is stuff that I can carry into my personal life as well as my business life. I mean, you have really identified a lot of things that I'm going to do better. And I bet you everybody, yeah, I can see the comments. Everybody feels the same. So thank you so much, Jeff. You are a wonderful person. Yeah. And by the way, everybody, I had the advantage of knowing him on a little more intimate level. And this is exactly how he lives his life. He is like this. And that's why I wanted him on this webinar. This is going to be seen by a lot of people. And so if you know someone, when you see this posted on our Facebook page and LinkedIn and other places, please pass it on, because people need to learn how to recognize like this. And this fits totally into the Pixingo way of doing business and adding value to people. So Jeff, once again, you're the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. We'll catch you on our next huddle. Good evening.